Well done. We still
Close.
got it. We still
We
got it.
we still got it. Welcome to the inaugural episode of the Tsunami Cup Championship 2025 version. We're calling it the Iron Range TCC. But with me today, before we get going, I want to introduce you to my co-host Archie Cooley. Archie, take it away.
Welcome all. Welcome back. Excited for a new season of TCC. This podcast will come as a surprise to most of our listeners. We're coming up on it. It's only a short time away, and excited to get back in the saddle and start building some momentum.
Yeah, I'm excited for TCC shit talking season to begin. Draft next week, Wednesday 9 p.m. same time we're recording this, only a week later. So, getting excited to get into TCC season. The group chats absolutely pick up. A lot more activity on the kind of details front. But this one that we have coming up, which we're going to talk in more detail, should be very limited on logistics. But more to come on that. But Archie, you wanted to get into a review of last year's TCC before we moved much further.
Yeah, I mean, I want to hear about last year's TCC. I was a game time scratch, sick child, a couple of false
Oof.
starts. It was a nightmare scenario. So last year, Team Cream closed out the two-game sweep or the rubber match after tying it up the previous year in North Dakota. Uh, Matt, a part of Team Cream this last year, how did it go?
It went great. I mean, a logistical hiccup. I'll get into kind of the day by day in a little bit, but I think Team Cream played their hearts out, especially on match play day. I think we were relatively close going into match play day. I can't remember the scores. I did it all on Golf Genius. I won't do that again. That was more trouble than it was worth. But we may do
I
something else.
enjoyed it from a follower's perspective.
Right, right. But we may do something else. Like Golf Game Book, Schneider sent me that a couple times. But all in all, I beat Ratty for the second year in a row in match
Wow,
play. And
way to
not
go.
shitting on Ratty because he played hard. I mean, I think it was four up at the turn, and then I just started bleeding really slowly, and then I started bleeding really fast. And the 16th hole, which we'll get into later, was a par three with this humongous waste bunker on the left side. And yanked one just into the waste bunker. Probably had like a 25, 30 yard bunker shot. The green was pitched front to back severely, and the pin was on the way back right hand side of the green. And I splashed this shot out of the bunker, rolled it up to I don't know 6.5, 7 feet, and just hit this uphiller that just died right into the cup. And Ratty
Dagger.
hit his tee shot just behind the green, just off. But he was in some thick shit. So when he tried to come back on the green, it rolled so far gone that he made a four there. It got so bad, like a month later, I texted him and said, like, I'm still thinking of that bunker shot that I hit on 16 on you. And he goes, I haven't lost any sleep about it at all.
You
Um,
got ready to text you back. That's
I
cool.
did, I did get ready to text you back, but we'll go into more day by day stuff. But I think if I remember correctly, we kind of pulled away in match play.
Fantastic. Well, I mean, I've also heard, because of my late minute scratch or last minute scratch, there was a Ghosty in play. Ghosty had a great day, or Ghosty had a great tournament.
If Ghosty, if Ghosty was included in the point calculations, I think he had the most points across the board for cut points than any other player in the TCC, which a little scummy, a little controversial in that
No,
sense. But Jake, you were not there for these, but there were a lot of negotiations over what to do with the ghosty and a lot of unknown about how to move forward.
so it was
So
agreed upon.
everything I don't think it was, at one point, Haynes wanted to cancel the whole thing on Saturday night, or maybe it was Friday night, or Monday night or Tuesday night. But him and I were going back and forth, and some people wanted to just throw out a score for one team, and blah 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 blah. So We figured it out. We worked through it. It was close going into match play. Sucks that Ghosty was the MVP, but I think the all their co MVPs were Phil, right? Phil had a great TCC last year.
Yeah, I mean, 3-1. Uh, I think beside Ghosty, he was the only one to go 3 wins. Everyone else topped out at two. I mean, we'll get into the stats, but Phil has been coming on, a late bloomer in TCC, but he's certainly coming into his own. We'll say that.
Yeah, we won't spoil kind of the strengths and weaknesses portion of the later on in the podcast, but just getting into the experience, drove up to Minocqua, Wisconsin. I drove up a day early because my wife was sick of me and wanted and wanted me to leave. And so I had drove up a day early. We went up and played a golf at this absolute goat track in Gogebic, up in Michigan in the UP. It was a nightmare. At one point, there was a hole that was a C. Not kidding, a C, but it looked more like a really scribbly C that was very pointy. So it was like 180 or 150 yards out, and then 150 yards back towards back towards you at a 45-degree
Just
angle.
cut the
It
corner
was
with a pitching wedge.
exactly, but we had no idea. So that was good times. Everybody started coming in on Sunday night except for Jake, who had the late audible. A little logistical concerns getting out of the cities. It sounded like from other individuals, but all was well that ended well with that. So we all got up there Sunday night, hung out, did the lake thing, took lake showers. I brought an entire cooler of high noons, and I think we were trying to get more high noons by day two of this thing. So we just kind of hung out the first night there. Everybody kind of sauntered in, and we got ready to go for Monday morning. And Monday morning we were playing at a golf club called Saint Germain Golf Club, and this it was a very nice, well maintained club, but it was a little gidgety in the fact that there was one hole, their signature hole, kind of worked across a big ridge, and you wouldn't know that from from if you didn't play the courts before. So you see, oh, I got to get it to this point, and it's like 230 yards. So everybody hits their 230 yards club, thinking that that's safe, not knowing that a ravine pops down on the other side. So it was just kind of like things like that, and it was really tight. But
Very much
played.
like Summit in Cannon Falls, kind of gadget holes like that, where you just if you don't know it, you're not gonna play well.
Yeah, yeah, and I think just combined with the fact that it was so tight. I mean, it was deep woods that it was. We had a lot of issues with like people trying to find balls, which we'll get into later, and talk through all that. But there was a starter. It was very official when we went off. They made us all line up in three groups, and their starter kind of talked to us about the course, kind of let us know what was going on. So we did played the whole first round, and then everybody was starving. It was hot, and so we drove a mile down the road to a bar, and we got into the bar, and they're like, oh, we're like, we want some food, and they're like, well, you have to sit in this side of the bar, and we're like, well, if we sit in there, can we have some drinks? And they were like, no. If you want to drink, you have to order your drinks from this side of the bar. And we were also in a time crunch because we had to go back to Saint Germain and play it again. And so we sat in the bar and just had a couple drinks and then went back to the snack shack at the turn and then went back out for alternate shot.
Wow. I mean, they're if they're in
So
business,
Scott,
it must be doing well. But yeah, that seems counterintuitive.
and we played some pull tabs, lost a bunch of pull tabs, drank some some cheap beer, got the fuck out of there, and drove back to Saint Germain for the alternate shot round. Played kind of into the setting sun, but that was a great time. That round was ended by some boys taking their tarps off. Coming up the last three couple holes, and then when we got to return our carts, they did not put their shirts back on, and we were catching a lot of dirty looks from the
Ooh,
people of Saint Germain Golf Club.
I got to imagine. but you mentioned some Deep Woods potential controversy.
Yeah.
Tell me about that.
So there was a situation in which we had identified basically like if we can't find it in the woods because it was not so dense that you couldn't like find things. It wasn't overgrown on the underbrush in most places. So we said if you can't find it, just take a drop where it went in and take the extra stroke. We'll play it stroke and distance, right? And there was Schneider and I were playing Luke and Haynes in best ball in the first round in the morning, and Haynes hit his drive on a very kind of straightaway, very narrow hole. Went into the woods. He found it in kind of a thicket of sticks.
Now,
Uh,
can I ask a question? Did he
yeah,
find it or did he Obar find it?
he found it.
Okay, okay.
We found it. We identified it, and then Schneider and I were up three or four holes on the match at this point. And then well, Haynes and Luke are talking through Haynes' options. One that gets thrown out is that he just can take an unplayable and take it out and drop it um, uh, back kind of in the rough. And I was like, no, you get two clubs. You get a club on an unplayable, I think.
Hmm.
Um, and that's it. And so then a an argument ensued because there was concerns that I was being overtly restrictive with the rules when we were so far up in the match already, and that it you know difference of opinions, and we'll just kind of leave it at that. I didn't handle myself great. I didn't cuss any. I didn't cuss anybody out. I may have cussed somebody out. But I remain true that that was I would think differently of myself if I hadn't reacted the way that I had.
Is this an apology segment, or is that what we're seeing here?
I don't think I'm ready to apologize for what I
Are you
said.
digging in? Are you digging in?
Am I
Doubling down.
giraffe and sticking my neck out here?
Yeah.
No, I still think I was right. But I think the decorum in which I was arguing the point that I was right was maybe crossed the line.
You were right, but were you really right?
I was right. I was I was right by the rules, and I should have just shut the fuck up because I made par on that hole, and then we closed them out anyways. But um, that was a great round. So went back to the cabin Saturday night. Can't remember what we had for dinner. I'm sure we ate something. But then so I get to the first round, and someone had laid their bag on mine because we were trying to take two cars with 11 people. So we put all the bags in the back of my car and had like guys were sitting on their bags in Obar's car, and so someone had put their bag on mine, and it hit my rangefinder, and it went all night, and so the battery died, and so I
Oh
literally had
no.
played with it and put a new battery in like two rounds earlier. So the battery died, and I was like, oh, I think I have a battery in my bag. And so it started a 2 day search for the correct battery for my rangefinder. Didn't have it all the day throughout Saint Germain. So we go back to the cabin, have a great night. Have to wake up early because we have a 45-minute drive out to Eagle River Golf Club. So we're kind of cutting it really close, anyways, trying to get there. It's a dewy morning. They got the sprinklers going. We pull up, we get in, and I go to check in, and the guy goes, "I don't have you today." And I'm like, "But I called this place multiple times to have conversations about what we were trying to do. They booked it. I called to
Speed dial
confirm
3.
it. What's that?"
They were speed dial 3 for you last year.
I was I was talking to these people, and so because I was trying to get a lay of the land about the other courses up there, so I was talking to the pros in each golf shop, whatever. And so I called to confirm it a week out. They're like, "Yep, we got you. You're all good." Turns out that they had made us for the next day and told me the entire time that we were good to go. So their system that they were using to kind of do tea time management was box based. And so this guy was just like dragging back. He was trying to find a way to fit three groups in the middle of his men's league morning.
Ooh,
And so we were like, let's scrap it. We're gonna find something else. So that was I think we were teeing off at like 8:05 in the morning or something. So it was like 7:45 at that time. So we're sitting in the parking lot. Haynes is like, we could just like not golf. And and we're all like, Haynes, we came here to golf, we're gonna golf.
Literally a golf trip.
So we found a different course back closer to the cabin we were staying at. Uh, and uh played the individual round at that course. It was kind of in the sticks. It was not the best kept course. The tee boxes were long, but I thought the holes were like somewhat interesting. And I also like played really well. I think there was hole two. It was this downhill par three with kind of a built up green, shit off to the left, and a kind of big hill and woods off to the right. And so I put my tee shot, I kind of duffed the tee shot in down into the weeds, found it somehow like in 4 foot high grass, and somehow put it up like 15 feet onto the green, held the back end, and then the green was so sloped, and I had a really bad side hill lie, probably like 25 feet or so. So I had to put it super far up to let it come back down, and I rolled it in, and I made par on Ratty and Luke, and I saw their faces, and that was not a fun one, but also kind of just like you needed to figure out your spots. The golf carts, it was much more kind of a rich valley with much more interesting holes than Rich Valley, and I thought it was a little better kept than that. But we played the individual round there as we're wrapping up, coming in up on 18. Actually, we started on 10, so we were coming back in on 9. Um, Skies opened up, and so like we had just finished up. It just started sprinkling. One more group to come. The skies just kind of unloaded on us all, so we kind of like ran inside. Of course, no food was available, and we had to kind of turn and burn to get to our second course of the night because we were planning on replaying Eagle River twice that day. And we didn't want to come back out to them, so we found a different course out in Rhinelander called I think it was like Northern Woods or something, Northwood. So we get there like at like 3:45, maybe even 4, and we're thinking, okay, we're gonna tee off at 4:30. We'll stop into the to the bar and get a bite quick. So we sit down at the bar. We're checking with the pro, let him know we're trying to have a bite. And he's like, "You're gonna be fine. There's plenty of daylight left." And we're like, "Cool." So the kitchen gets behind.
Oh
Lady comes out.
no.
We have no hamburger patties to a group of 11 guys looking to get a burger. So we all kind of chalk it up, whatever. We eat dinner. We noticed that the head pro, who had promised that we could get out, was in the kitchen slinging food because he wanted us to get out so bad. So he was like helping out in the kitchen to help the delays with the golf course. So we thought that was cool.
Team game.
And then we went out and played a scramble. Really liked this course. It was really kind of well manicured. I wouldn't call it overly well conditioned. I thought the greens were kind of sticky, and it was kind of, but it was. I thought it was one of the better courses that we had played. Played a scramble round, came back in. Our last group was told that they had to skip the 18th hole because we because we were playing in darkness, and they wanted to go home, so we had to return. We had to return the carts. So we told them like, yeah, we'll bring them up, and then they played the 18th hole as we all kind of followed them and checked all of our carts in, whatever. Went back, had another night. This was the night where we were arguing about the ghost, what to do in match play the next morning. I
So the
think
ghosty only came into play in match play.
well, it came into play in best ball too,
Okay. Okay.
and then alt shot we did something else. Um, so whatever. So we figured all that out, had that argument. I think that night kind of got out of hand for others. I was kind of in bed a little early. I was sleeping in the bottom bunk of a bunk bed set. Nobody was on top of me, so it was lovely. But it
Why
was
didn't you go top? If you're the only one, you go top.
I didn't want to take the chance if I'd had a few beers of falling out of the top bunk.
That's
So
fair.
I got in the bottom one. So woke up the next morning and I couldn't find half the guys. We were teeing off, I think at like, I don't know, maybe like it was maybe pre 8 or right at 8. And Mike, I'm driving Mike to the course because everybody else is just going to leave from the course. So we wanted to kind of quick clean up in the mornings. So it's a bit of an earlier wake up, and I couldn't find Mike, and for the for the longest time, to the point where we were like, we had to leave in like 10 minutes or something, and I stuck my head in. He was like, "Oh my God, my alarm didn't go off. Thank you for like waking me up." So got everybody to the course. I don't know if anybody hit any balls. We might have hit a couple, but then went out and played Timber Ridge up in Minocqua. It was just it was a great morning. They kind of snuck us in between some other people. Big starter energy off the first tee was kind of yucking it up with us. Straightaway par four to open up. Kind of bent a little back to the left, but it was a great course. Had a fantastic halfway house on hole 12, which was like brats and stuff like that. So that was a great kind of thing. We also did a lot of horse racing, the board game, on this
Oh
trip,
yes.
like a significant amount of that. And we were so we all had our chips from doing that. Some guys played poker the night before, and we were still betting all throughout the match play. So wrapped up match play, Team Cream wins. Mike and I have to go. We go back to the cabin to kind of clean up a little bit more. Everybody else splits, get all the chips back. Obar had personalized bags made up
Wow.
for Team Cream to hold the poker chips. So that was cool. Obar brought the swag this year. He made up logo stickers and got everybody a coffee mug that said Team Cream 3.0 on it with your with I and then so he had all these vinyl stickers, so we had like 30 vinyl stickers. So for the entire TCC I had my car, the back of my car window with the TCC 2025 stickers on it while we were driving out through Minocqua.
That's
So
that's fantastic. Boy, sounds like a blast was had.
it was a blast. I think the biggest con of it all was just the amount of driving that we did because it was like 25 minutes up to Saint Germain. It was 45 minutes over to Eagle River, and then like 30 minutes back to Pinewood, and then 20 more minutes back out to Rhinelander. And then what's funny is that Mike has played Timber Ridge a lot because his cabin's like 6 miles from it, and it takes like 6 minutes. And so, and so he's so hungover in the morning that he's like, I don't pull it up in your GPS. Like, I'll just tell you how to get there. And so we like drove past Timber Ridge Lane where it's like turn here for golf. I'm like, is that it? And he's like, yeah,
Jeez.
I'm so sorry.
Don't don't pull it up. I got you.
I'm so sorry, but
No, I
no, it
got
was
you.
a good time. But I think the biggest con of it was, a lot of driving, and it seems like we've had some driving focused TCCs as of late.
TCC is not afraid to get in the car and hoof it. I mean,
That's true.
we when we went west, that was a lot of driving, and the year before, I think there was a fair amount of driving as well. I mean, so I mean that kind of leads us into this year. TCC turns 10. We made it to two hands, and we're going up to the iron range like we talked about. I think the driving is going to be less significant. We'll say intra TCC it will be less significant. I think everybody's got a fair amount of travel. Ratty obviously having the longest trip, but Casey down in St. Louis now. You and Mike are gonna have a pretty long trip. Luke is probably the closest.
Yeah,
Uh,
how far does Luke have?
5-10 minutes. I mean, we seem to center all of this around Luke Evenson. So,
No, I
God,
wonder how far. I wonder if it's got to be because he's got to take two. But this is not good podcast conversation. But
yeah.
Jake, how long do you have?
Uh, I mean, if I went end to end, it would be about 7 hours.
Ooh, so what are you doing? What's your strategy?
I mean, the same as I usually do. I'll probably head up to the Twin Cities, spend the night with Dave and Di, and then Sunday, figure out how to caravan with the rest of the gaggle of guys to the Northland. Um,
Yeah, so Luke's 4.5 hours. And
what?
so yeah, how far
Holy
are the guys from
moly!
Minneapolis? They got to be 3.5 then.
It's about three. Yeah.
So anyway, so just to give you kind of recenter this conversation, we're going up on Sunday. and we are gonna play. Yeah, they're 3 hours and 10 minutes. God, the guys in the cities always have
They
it easy.
really they got it so easy.
Oh,
Not next year.
so we are going up to the Giants Ridge Recreation Area where they have two 18-hole courses. They have the Quarry and they have the Legend. So we're heading up on Sunday night. We are staying in two separate two-bedroom condos with pull-out couches. We had a bit of a staffing issue, which we'll get into a little bit later for TCC participants this go around, but we were able to get that all figured out. So we're going up Sunday, playing the Legend all day on Monday. So we're playing 36 at the Legend on Monday, and then we're playing 36 at the Quarry on Tuesday. And then in the morning on Wednesday, we'll check out and drive up. I think it's like 35 minutes or something like that, up to the wilderness at Fortune Bay, which should get us kind of three of the most top 10 public courses, maybe even three of the top five public courses in the state of Minnesota. So we'll do our match play Upper Wilderness at Fortune Bay, and then we'll all depart, 10 miles from Canada or wherever we're going to be.
Yeah.
But we're going up far north. We're playing some Northwoods golf. We're playing some big boy golf courses, and we're really looking forward to it.
Yeah. Yeah. So I mean, looking at the courses, I don't know that many of the guys have gone and played these courses. Mondo, have you ever played any of these courses?
I haven't. Carlo has. Haynes has, and we'll talk about Haynes in a little bit. But they say it's awesome. And then McClay was plays in a men's league hockey night, and he was talking to somebody who did the exact same trip that we're doing, and he said basically like you're gonna love the Quarry, but you're gonna be amazed by the wilderness.
Uh, Not a lot of YouTube content, so we're all kind of going in blind. But Mondo, give me your thoughts or your kind of notes based on what you've been able to gather. What are the kind of the important points for these courses? They're Northwoods courses, so kind of talk me through what you would describe as your strategy going in as a captain, and what kind of player will favor here.
So I think the players who are going to succeed here are players who can either hit the correct side of the green or put their asses off. There are a lot of big, like we're talking like monstrous green complexes. At least at the Quarry, I think the Wilderness also has some pretty big greens. So I think like side of the green is going to be so important, and I think there's going to be a lot more actions on the greens this year than last. Last year it was everything seemed to roll true, be very kind of like constructed greens. I'm thinking the greens this year are going to have a lot more undulation, a lot more movement around them, and I know that they're fast. And so who can hold a green on the approach shot, or at least put yourself in a spot that you can chip up at the pin, because if you're on the green, you have a 150-foot putt. I mean, you're going to be in some of these. You're going to be lucky to three putt that.
Probably take a wedge
Right.
to the green with you.
Right. Another player that I think is gonna succeed is the player that can select a responsible bailout on some of the long par threes that we're gonna play. I think Corey and Legend both have two of their par threes that are over like 180 yards. Corey has one par three that's 236 yards from the tip. Unsure what we're gonna play it at. But if you can find the spot to miss on a par three, to be able to give yourself a shot to get up and down, are people that are also going to succeed at these types of courses, is what my opinion is.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, just doing some YouTube scouting and kind of Google Earth overview type things. I would say, yeah, you're 100% spot on with the greens. They're huge, and hitting greens may not be a huge factor about just getting on the green, because yeah, three putts are going to be a plenty if you're on the wrong side. um I
It
will
might
say
be
that
it might be a good year to implement the snake.
the
The
snake,
three putt snake rule. Have you ever played that game?
never.
It's like you just if you whoever three putts last has the snake. And so all the
Okay.
guys like throw in some money in the foursome or something. But we could probably do it across all the guys and basically like whoever three putts last has to pay out like up the ladder or something to everybody else. So it's then the person
Okay.
who does second, so whatever. But these greens might be a fun little side game to play.
Yeah. Yeah. Outside of that, like for being a Northwoods course, it looks like it's going to be. I don't want to say more forgiving. Like if you miss in the woods, you're gone. There's not going to
Right.
be any going in to find it. But I think there's enough buffer.
Yeah.
So when I think about like the Jewel, it was like fairway shit.
Yeah.
And here it does seem like there's a little bit more of a buffer with rough. So like if you hit the fairway and you roll through, you're not going to be in a shitty position. You're going to be playing out of the rough. But um, and I mean, outside of that, I think our tee selection is going to be really big
Yeah. It's gonna be critical.
because the tips play out really long, the blues play out really long, and these courses appear to really tighten up in certain spots and then open
Right.
up. And there's a lot of stuff where you probably need to make a decision of am I hitting driver and taking on a little bit more risk, or am I staying in front of some bad stuff? And and then I'm hitting into an enormous green with a long a long iron that might cause the three putt, or am I laying up short so that I can get it a little bit closer and I'm resolving myself to a bogey either way. But so I think Wilderness certainly is going to have a lot of water in play.
Yeah.
Plays around some lakes and streams, but yeah, I mean from a high level, I would say driving the ball is going to be important, but I think you're absolutely right. Putting and short game is going to be the key.
Yeah, and I think you provided a great segue for us to move into what types of players that are going to struggle on these courses when you're talking about making a club selection. And I think due to the inconsistency of a lot of our participants at the TCC, there may not be as much understanding of distances across the board for individuals. I mean, if you're talking about trying to thread a needle or trying to lay up, you got to know those clubs distances. And so I think a player that'll struggle here is somebody that's gonna not necessarily identify exactly what their distances are going, not understanding that everybody doesn't know that it's going to go 158. That's not what I'm saying.
Mhm.
But if you have too much club here and you don't think that you do, that could be an issue. I think
Yeah,
other some other players that are going to struggle are those that are easily intimidated. I think there's a lot of visual tricks that go on at these courses. Like Archie was saying, I think there's a lot of elevated tee boxes, at least at the Giants Ridge courses. I through some of my pre-scouting work as well, I've seen some undulation in the fairways that can make things look closer or further away. And there always seems to be some area of the side of the green that you don't want to hit, depending on
yeah,
the pin location at the Giants Ridge. So I think that those that are easily intimidated and not willing to take on the challenge are going to struggle here. And then finally, the last type of person that's going to struggle here is those that are bitches.
yeah.
These
Just
these courses are for
bitches.
the bold. Bitches beware. You got to
Yeah,
go out and hit a golf shot.
yeah. Absolutely. Don't be afraid to lose the ball because if you are, you'll lose the ball.
Right. And just bring more balls.
Yeah.
It's an expensive sport. Just lean into it.
Lean into it. Just buy a couple boxes of Pro V1s and let's go.
Yeah, just be the rest of us. Just waste your entire fund money allotment on
Yeah,
golf balls whenever you
yeah.
can.
Just
But no, I think
toss it
it's
in.
if people are going to try to lay up short and get cute, like I think that there's a lot of I'm not so worried about scoring on these courses as I am like keeping my hat on. I don't think we're going to get kicked in the face, but I think a round could get away from you quick if you continue to make dumb decisions. If you're on tilt and you think you got to get one back and you're trying to press on something, like I do think things could unravel quickly at these courses. But going through the courses, like we said, we were playing the Legend on Monday for 36 holes. Giants Ridge actually has a 37 hole special that you get to play both courses within 36 holes. I have reconfirmed with my booking agent at Giants Ridge that we can play the same course on the same day and the same course on the next day, whatever. But anyways, we're playing the Legend, which is the lesser acclaimed course at Giants Ridge on Monday. And I think that the Legend is going to be a great opener course for us. I don't have anything bad to say about the Legend other than it's not as big. It's not as like it's very sophomoric in the terms of in the golf courses. Not that it's not hard or anything along those lines, but it's not necessarily the big daddy on property. And I think it's going to give us a lot more opportunities to kind of get the rust off of our swings and get going there. And I think we're going to have a little good chuckle on the fact that we're not losing as much balls as we were last year. The courses we played last year are like 50 to 75% tighter than the courses that we're going to play this year. So that's my notes on Legend. Did you have any kind of pre thoughts on Legend?
Um, Nothing that I haven't already said. I mean, it looks like it looks tough but playable, and like tight but or like intimidating but forgiving.
Right.
Yeah.
Then we're playing the Quarry on Tuesday. Quarry is the big boy golf course on property. Has I think it might even be the first hole where you kind of have to tee over a sand trap shaped like Bigfoot's foot. I think this course. Did I flip them?
No, I think that's number two.
Oh, okay. Um, I think this course has the opportunity to. I think this is the unravel course, which is funny because this we try to play kind of a more fun round on Tuesday afternoon normally because we're kind of like we need a break from all the hyper competitive golf, and I think the quarry can cause us collectively to make some dumb decisions. And if I have a piece of advice for anybody trying to get to the quarry and not lose their mind, is start practice putting now.
Yeah.
I think those greens are going to be fucking wild. I mean, there's one green that has like a legitimate 4 foot ridge in it.
Yeah. Yeah, and that I think is going to be that's going to be a very fun place to play scramble because it does appear that like you can take on some calculated risk and then
Right.
putting is just going to be like I we could do a four-man scramble and I would be extremely shocked if we came in at like more than 5 under par just because
Yeah.
putting is going to be just a really big challenge, and there's not going to be like outside of some cases there's not going to be a lot of one putts. Even a two putt could be a win.
Right. And then why don't you lead us off on notes for the wilderness before we kind of move into the draft class?
Yeah, I would say that the size of the fairways and kind of the buffer zone of the rough, it looks like it's a little bit more. I don't want to say open because I do think there's a ton of big trees and it's gonna feel a little claustrophobic, but it's also a little wider. And there's going to be a ton more water to contend with. Counting up, I think like 12 of the holes have water that are like in play.
Right.
Uh, so like staying away from the danger, and you're not going to hit it well. We None of us play well enough to where we can really, but knowing how to stay away from the danger is where strokes are going to be made up.
Yeah, my two notes were you got to stay dry, especially on match play. I think the wilderness is a great match play course for us with
Hmm.
all the water coming into play. Understanding that if you put one in and your opponent doesn't, you might still have a chance.
Yeah.
But I think there's so many variables at the wilderness for match play that I'm really excited to play
Yeah.
it.
So I think we talked about the courses. Let's talk about the captains. This is a new round of captains for those uninitiated. Captainship lasts for 3 years. We just finished up with the Haynes and Obarski captainship, and we elected two new ones, Casey Methune and Kyle Ratty. I think both are the most distant. Casey residing in the St. Louis area and Ratty out of Scottsdale. So this will be fun. Uh, Two very different, I would say, approaches to having a lot of fun.
Yes.
Ratty a little bit more quiet and reserved. Casey a little bit more externally facing, but like both are definitely here for like the good time in the golf.
I love both their laughs. They both have
Yes.
very unique laughs. When Casey kind of puts his hands by his face and throws his head back, that one
Yeah.
kills me. And then Ratty's laugh into things. But actually, what's funny is, we have the overall stats that were kept. We've compiled them since the last TCC. And we've got Kyle Ratty with the 13, 11, and 1 overall record in different TCC matches. That is a 52% win rate. And Casey Methune with a 10, 6, and 1 with a 58% win rate on that. Reddy has a little more experience in playing in the TCC. Reddy has 3 cups and Casey has 2. So looking forward to this new captains match. Looking to
Yeah.
see kind of what we can draw out of each one of them. See if we can kind of like initiate a rivalry early, and kind of
Yeah.
interested to see what happens.
Absolutely. And when we kind of look at the teams, you're starting off with the member of each team, Kyle and or Ratty and Casey. I would say from a needs perspective, if we're attacking this like the NFL draft, the Vikings always need a quarterback. That's just a given. They always need offensive line. That's a given, right? I would say Team Casey. Casey is a lottery ticket player. Like he's gonna go boom or he's gonna go bust. I think he's played pretty well at a lot of the TCC, but there was an inexplicable like 125 when we played at Craigens a couple of years back. So I think if I'm Casey, I'm looking for a little bit more of a even keel, solid player to try and
Mm,
tie myself to, trying to kind of balance that out. And if I'm talking about Ratty, it's like the exact opposite. Ratty is a good player. He's not going to go like he's definitely got the potential to go crazy low, but I haven't seen the blow ups. His blow up is shooting in like an 81, 85, whatever, and we'd all be
right.
super thrilled with that. And that's where I'd say like a lot of TCC, the games and the formats that we play, you need to have a little bit of a high low lottery ticket type players on your team. So that's where I'd say
Right.
if I'm looking at his team, I'm looking to draft a little bit more of a wild card, if I could say it like that.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I think I approached my notes on Casey and Ratty with their kind of leadership styles, right? Casey is the offensive coordinator for Maryvale University out of St. Louis's lacrosse team. He's going to have clearly communicated expectations, right? You're going to know what you need to do in that round to keep your captain happy. I respect that and I appreciate that. I don't ever want to just think I'm trying my hardest and then I want to know exactly what I need to do to
Yeah.
fulfill to fulfill my obligation to the team.
You need to know where you land. You need to know where
Yeah.
you sit. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think Casey's going to communicate that. Casey also has been screwing around with a logo for this year's TCC, which I think looks pretty sick. So getting excited to kind of work with that a little bit.
Maybe we
Uh,
unveil that at the draft.
Maybe we unveil it at the draft.
Little
Yeah.
little teaser.
Whereas I think Ratty is more of a quiet leader, right?
Yeah.
Casey may be like, do as I say, not as I do. But Ratty may be like, do as I do because I don't say much, right?
Mm.
I think Ratty's gonna have a blast, and I can't wait for this captain's match off to kick off this year.
Absolutely. So with the draft hasn't happened.
No,
Who are you giving the edge to? Like if we're power ranking the NFC North right now,
right.
who are you giving the edge to just based on what is the known quantity?
Yeah, I got to give it to Ratty. He's arguably the greatest of all time golfer in TCC history. Arguably, I'm just going to put that out there. How can I not trust him to perform in his captainship duties, right? And not saying that Casey's also not going to perform, but I feel like it's kind of you're betting against Scotty at the PGA. It's like
Yeah,
okay, like it's probably a good bet.
yeah.
But
Well, are
it's
you
one of
betting
the
against
things.
Scotty, or are you betting for Scotty, and then your dumbass bookie puts it in wrong?
One way or the other. But and I think how can I raise any questions with Ratty's performance to date in the CCC? So I think Ratty has the edge going into the draft.
That's fair. That's fair. This was a tough one for me to kind of select because it, yes, there's no doubt Reddy's better golfer. I'm not going to offend Casey by saying that. I will say the lack of engagement is where I draw concerns, and that's where I am giving the edge to Casey. I mean, the guy's locked in. The guy knows how to bring the best out of his team, and he knows how to start planting those seeds early, and that's kind of where I'm giving the edge to Casey. It's all going to come down to the draft.
Yeah,
We
obviously.
handicap everything, and that's where I just Casey's engagement is drawing me that way
Mm,
right now.
great. Well, I think we've beat around the bush long enough, told stories. Let's get into this year's draft class preview. We're going to talk about each one of the players. We each have a strength and weakness for them. So, Archie, how do you want to kick this off?
I mean, I alphabetized it by first name because that was the way that the Google document allowed me to do it. So I think let's kick off with his first name is Chris, right?
Yeah,
Chris McClay.
yeah.
Um, and I'll just throw out the strengths that I know and the weaknesses that I know. I only play with McClay. Well, actually, I pretty much only play with everyone here at the TCC. So the strength that I see in McClay is he knows who he is.
Sure.
He's not trying to go out and shoot 75. He
Right.
he knows his game. He's a very good long iron player, or based on what I've seen at the TCC, and I would say he plays more golf than most of the guys at the TCC. So there's got to be a consistency factor there. The weakness is off the tee. Unless he's fixed it, that's going to be a really really hard pill to swallow because the banana hook is you're playing with fire if you're aiming into the trees, and I've been there and I am there probably, but I
Hmm.
just don't play enough to know where I am at the moment. So that's where I'd put his weakness.
Yeah, I actually just I gotta put a plug in for my guy Chris McClay here. It's more of a crescent now than a banana hook, so it is
Okay.
trending in the appropriate direction, I think. But I think he's got two overall strengths. First and foremost, the shenanigans aren't gonna affect his golf game as much as it may others. Right? He carries a very steady state of mind throughout time that other people might not, and I think he's not going to be as affected by the extracurricular activities. His second strength is he's not afraid of shit, man. That that little fucker will he'll get in the mix. He once asked Casey when was the last time he died, and then fell into the wall and almost broke his skull. But he's not afraid to kind of stand his ground, and I think that that's going to be a benefit this year. Um, his biggest weakness, Bloody Marys. If you're playing him in a match in the morning, get a Bloody Mary and put it in his cart because he's gonna drink it and he's gonna feel terrible and he's probably gonna puke on the ninth tee box. But get him a Bloody Mary because if you put something in front of him with alcohol in it, he's gonna drink it. But
Crash rumors.
there's a rumor floating around that McClay still has to pay his debt from last year's TCC and get his wedge stamped with the words "Lil Bitch." And I'm gonna try to finagle in some interest based things at this issue at this point because I haven't seen him since to let me get that to fill that in with pink nail polish. So I will be bringing my stamps to the TCC in the hopes that Chris McClay fulfills his side of the bet.
I mean, I hope he does. Why don't you kick it off with the proctologist?
Yeah, Schneider texted me a couple days ago and said he was on the range. I had given him a driver a while back, one of the ones I had in my garage, because he didn't have a driver because he used to have that old Sasquatch driver, and then I think that one broke. So all last year, Dan didn't even swing the driver. He might have swung it like a handful of times, but his primary teeing club, all of last year was his hybrid, and somehow that's a strength. I saw him hit this hybrid, no shit, 250 plus. Like I like, what are you doing? Like, just get a driver and swing it. You probably bomb at 300. So he's got his. I think his biggest strength is somehow the hybrid because he doesn't play enough golf. But he said that the driver might be back in play. So that's the rumor for Dan this year. But he more than not finds a way to win. I think he's got the most cups in TCC
Does.
history, doesn't he?
Yeah. Well, yeah, by a
One,
margin.
two, three, four, five, six, seven. Yeah, he's got 7 cups. So he's a winner. He knows how to win. That's another strength of his. But I think the biggest weakness with Dan is that when he's off, he's like really off. And I'm not saying that he's really on when he's on, but like when he's off, he can shoot a big number, and that would be something I'd be concerned about if I was drafting him as a captain. But
Yeah.
Jake, did you have any thoughts of our good friend the proctologist?
Um, I'm gonna put the strength is, and I wrote Icarus, and I say that with the caveat that you're absolutely right. Like his high isn't like the sun. He's not scorching,
Right.
scorching earth, but his lows are, the seventh circle of hell.
Right.
Um, and that is that I think is a strength, especially when you look at the formats that we play. I've played a lot with Dan in these types of formats, and because you can count on him to contribute some really good shots as long
Right.
as you can kind of cover his really bad ones. Like, you're going to get a lot out of him from a team game perspective.
Totally agree.
Not I don't want to pull a Haynes out here, but he's a great scramble golfer.
It's a
you
great
know
circle.
uh, and but that, it's the two-sided coin, because the weakness that I have is the inconsistency. Is when he's off on like a single ball game, like, you might need to tamper the expectations. And that comes from, I'm in his boat right now. There's just not a lot of golf being played,
Right.
and so you don't know what you're gonna get.
Exactly. Which leads us to our next player in the draft class this year, which is yours truly, Archie Cooley. We won't say his real name for privacy purposes.
Thank you.
But Jake, before you give your own strength, I'll give your strength. I think you can scramble out of most stuff. You typically can get up and down relatively easily. In times when I've thought, "Oh, I got this hole," and then somehow you squeeze it out of your ass, figuring it out. I still think that even if you haven't played much, you appreciate the scrambler's mindset, where it's like, oh, I can still make par here,
Yeah.
and I think that's probably your biggest strength. But I think I am a little concerned about your weakness because your biggest weakness is the sun. It drains you. It makes you hot. It makes you smelly. It makes you sticky. And I think that that's one of the reasons that we went so far north this year, right? Is to
Mhm.
try to mitigate those factors for you and be
Yeah.
respectful in your return back to the TCC.
No, I appreciate that. And I mean, I gave myself a strength of TBD.
It's fair.
There's going to be a strength there. I don't know what it's going to be.
Right.
The game, I haven't been playing enough to know what it's going to be, but it's going to be something. It might be camaraderie. It might be
Sure.
something actually on the golf course. Who knows?
We'll find out.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Weakness is, barely play. So who the fuck knows what's going to happen? And I would say the other big weakness: am I going to show up, and in what kind of condition? The hydration, it needs to be
Sure.
there, and a couple weeks starting the kids on IV drips of vitamin C just to make sure they stay well enough
Right.
that I can
Obviously.
attend. Yeah. So
Obviously.
next up is the former captain, Mr. Arbarski. I'll kick it off with the strength. It's confounding. The guy is a ball hawk. The guy can find his ball anytime. You might think he is in the water, but his ball seems to roll up on the shore, and he can play it out from there. He's got eyes of an
Ball hawk.
eagle. Uh,
He's Cooper DeJean, is what he
he's
is.
Cooper DeJean. Yeah, yeah.
He's an
He,
eagle.
he's an eagle, and body type is a little bit different, but you know
Sure.
what? Like he's there.
Both were Division 1 athletes, though.
Both were Division 1 athletes, Division 1 football players, nonetheless.
That's correct.
And the weakness, the most frustrating thing about being on an OBAR team is that there's going to be like a rules based asterisk. The guy, for the nerds out there, the guy is a Slytherin to the T. He's gonna get the job done ish, but he's gonna break some rules along the way, swiping putts, you know, other things. But that's the weakness that I'm seeing.
I am happy to report there was not a Jono related controversy last year, other than the fact that we fleeced him in negotiations about how to use the ghosty. Um, I think Jono's biggest strength on the golf course is like Jono can sneaky move it. He can move the ball. He can fucking spank it a little bit. And I think Jono has really. I mean, I think he took like 6 points off his handicap last year. I think he's up to a 19, which may bode in the wrong direction
I
for
was
him.
gonna
But
say,
I
is that
think
a strength or a weakness?
but Jono can move the ball, and I think it's not absolutely the same Jono of years past. Jono's down to a 17.5.
Wow, good for him.
Like I said, he's golfing. He's gotten out twice already this year. Jono can move it, but I think his biggest weakness is his own high expectations of himself. He can't just sometimes accept the fact that we're all bad golfers
Yeah.
and that we shouldn't be just flagging every shot. Coming up, I was playing alt shot as Jono's partner. McClay had just yanked one or had kind of pushed one out of bounds into the woods, coming up a big par five. We have like maybe 100 yards out, maybe less, maybe right around 120 yards out. Green, there's a pond that sits behind it, and I said, and the pin was front right. It was just begging you to take it on, but it wasn't much room. It could just roll off into the lake or the pond. And so I told Jono and all Jono, I was like, go further right or go further left. We don't need to we don't need, they just put one
Not pin
OB.
seeking.
We're one down here. We can split this match. And he lines up over the wall, and I'm like, further left. And he just looks at me. He's like, nah. Hits it, goes right in the water. Understand it happens to everybody, but like we didn't need to take that pin on in that moment. But I think that's one of his biggest weaknesses is that he thinks he should be able to take that pin on, and he probably should have in that sense. And it wasn't a bad shot. It didn't hold the green, and
High
so
risk,
he
high
needs to
reward.
absolutely. He was going to he was trying to step on their throats, and I was kind of taking the more conservative play. And I'm not saying I was right, but that's what happened. Moves us to the other brother Evenson, Lucas Evenson. I think his biggest strength is his consistency. And I just want to pull up his gin really quick just to talk you through his last 10 scores. Now, Luke only plays 9 holes because he's in a 9-hole league. But he gets out. He's gotten out 3 times already this year. Let me read you his last 10 scores. 40, 48, 45, 48, 45, 42, 40, 43, 45. This guy doesn't like he's within a four-stroke window on either side.
That's a tight coupling.
His dispersion is tight. And I think that's probably his biggest strength. But I think as we kind of previewed in the write-up from the previous TCC, I think his biggest weakness is just rules. And understanding and when they should or should not be applied.
He's a gentleman's game guy. He's not a rule book guy.
Correct. Yeah, he doesn't like it written down. He just likes a handshake agreement.
Right. Yeah, I'll say I don't get to play with Luke as often, but I would say that in line with the consistency, he's consistent at every facet of the game. He's not the best at anything. He's not the worst at anything.
Right.
He's very competent driver, very competent irons and approach, very competent putter. He's not going to be out driving, the big hitters like Ratty, but
Right.
he's also not going to be three putting extraordinarily often.
Right.
Um, and then, he's the co-founder of the Vibes.
Mhm.
Harkening back a couple years, so that's a strength. He's going to be a good locker room guy. Uh,
Sure.
the biggest weakness is hangovers. I've
Sure.
he's lost to my dad being hungover. Who's
Oof.
I don't think his handicap even registers Dave Evenson's because does it go up to the high 30s and low 40s?
It
And
goes up to 36.
okay, well, Dave is a 36 then, without a doubt. And yeah, you get Luke a little rip roaring the night before. Next morning might be a rough one. So I'm going to kick it off for you. The next
Okay.
in line is Mr. Mondo. Um, and I'll say the strength is you're consistent, you're very self-aware. You know you're not going to outdrive the big guys. You know you're not going to be, threading the needle. You're playing a lot of golf, which is going to drive that consistency. And I would also say you're very used to playing the nice courses, so
Mhm.
there's not going to be that intimidation factor that you saw or that you mentioned earlier. Um, Weaknesses, you're rattled by slow play, and TCC is I would say is known for the slow play. Um,
Mm.
and then I would say how does the country club play translate to a public course? Um, if you see somebody who you think doesn't belong,
Yep.
then is that gonna ruin your day?
I have
And
a hard
also,
time holding my tongue. Yeah.
yeah, exactly, yeah. Are you I have it on record that you're also a douchebag, so that
Yeah.
that's where I'd say your weakness is the douchebaggery.
Says the guy whose big weakness is rules. So, I think my you hit the nail on the head. My biggest weakness is slow play. If I'm feeling pressure, it's like I don't feel pressure anywhere else in the
Yep.
world than behind when I have a group standing on a tee and I'm standing in a fairway waiting to hit a green.
And there,
Like
there
that's
could be no possible way for that group to move faster if you let them play through,
no.
but they're breathing down your neck.
The breathe. I cannot stand it. I mean, I play fast anyways. I some of the guys make fun of me because I like will walk immediately after they hit, and I'm like, well, I'm trying to get back to my ball. Like what the fuck? Like, and so I understand that I need to be more of a friend on the golf course than I am a golfer. But slow play is my absolutely biggest weakness. But I think my biggest strength is that my putter bails me out of a lot of shit that I shouldn't even be in. And I made so many dog pars in last year's TCC because my putter just I get
Hot
in
putter.
times where I stand over a putt and I'm so confident that I don't even like think about it much.
Yeah.
I've had the doldrums where I'm not there, but my putter bails me out more than hurts me.
Hit that flow state, baby.
Exactly. Moving into a fellow Madisonian here, we're going to move on to Mike Evans. I think his biggest strength is his irons. I played with him, I think in April, and he flagged probably on the whole fourth hole, ran it to like 2 feet this year, not tapped in it for birdie. When Evans's iron play is on, I love his iron flight. It's low, but it still kind of like gets the job done. His biggest strength is his irons. But his biggest weakness is a spicy chicken sandwich from Zippy Lube. Hands down. This guy texts me whether or not asked me a question if I've ever had Zippy Lube. He asked me that probably two to three times a month.
Sorry,
Um,
Zippy. Are you saying Zippy Lube, not Jiffy Lube?
I am saying Zippy Lube. It's a restaurant here in Madison. His biggest weakness is their spicy chicken sandwich.
All right. All right. Well, if he's on my team, we'll definitely steer clear of those. If he's not on my team, I might be stopping over to Jiffy Lube and getting him a chicken sandwich.
There you go.
Uh, so I'll put the cards on the table. I have literally never played with Mike Evans, nor have I ever seen him play. Uh, so I'm drawing strengths off of, we'll say, rumors, and just stats. I'm looking at the back of the baseball card. First, he's 2 for 2 on Cups, so like that has to say something.
Exactly.
He joined Team Cream 2.0 first year, and they won, and then the following year they won again. I'll also say that one of the strengths has to be he's not hosting. I know when we went west, and you were the de facto host, trying to organize the logistics and take care of everyone. Your game suffered. The next year, you played well. I'm looking for a comeback there.
Yeah,
Um,
I think I think you hit the nail on the head. Not to say that it was stressful, but just
it,
having
it's
that
it's
added
it's
weight
another
for
thing.
you.
Yeah.
Right.
No.
Yeah. I think it's helped.
Um, and I think the weakness is I'm going to just say TCC experience, um, because this is going to be the first, I would say, more or less typical TCC. First year was
Right.
goes west, RV, epic adventure. Next year was him hosting, playing kind of, setting up the cabin, playing host to everyone. So this is going to be his first typical TCC for him. How does he respond to that?
Yeah.
That's where I think the longevity is a question mark for me.
Yeah. Well, we'll find out.
And speaking of longevity, the next one, it was a long mainstay in TCC. Took a few years off. Nick Karlovich. I'll say the strength is the guy knows how to win. He has a pretty strong winning percentage at 13-4-4. He knows how to win games and matches. That doesn't necessarily always translate to cups, but individual performance, you got to give it to him. Uh, Weakness, I know he's not playing a lot, and I know how's his body going to hold up.
Great
Like
question.
I I think I saw the entirety of like a first aid store being applied to his body when we were doing Breezy Point with the
Yeah.
back brace, the knee brace, the wrist brace. Like
Poor
he's
guy.
got the body of like a 65-year-old man without like the wisdom and the old man experience. So
Yeah.
that's what
Or
I'm
the
going
old
to say
man
is,
strength.
or the old man strength. Well, he might have that now,
Yeah. That's fair.
Um, and after taking a couple years off, how's he going to respond to that?
Yeah, I think that, he's been playing some golf, but I don't think he's been playing 36 holes a day, back-to-back days, followed by an 18-hole match play matchup. But I think the biggest strength for him is he's well rested. He hasn't played in the Cubs since 2022. Uh, yep, 2022 was his last Cup. He actually has only played 1 year in since we've started mandating handicaps be a part of the registration. But yeah, he's going to be well rested. But I think that leads to the biggest weakness for him, biggest possible weakness, which is going to be the fact that does that mean he's also rusty, right? And
Rest or rust?
rest or rust. We'll find out in less than six. We'll find out in 60 days how he shows up and what accoutrement he brings to keep his body together. But moving on to the second to last member of the draft class is Phil Hutchison, aka Pinecone. I gotta say, rumor on the street is that Phil has been taking some lessons and trying to get some swing feels from that lessons that he's kind of translating into some better golf. I'd say the biggest strength of Phil is that he's more consistent. His floor absolutely has been raised. Phil used to shoot, in the hundreds routinely, and his I don't have him over 100 since October of last year. So he has not shot triple digits this year yet, which means that I think his ceiling has been lowered, but not his floor hasn't raised, but his ceiling has absolutely been lowered. But I think his biggest weakness, as of all, is just mental. When he's trying to put together 2 to 3 swing feels in the backswing, I can imagine that that's a lot of heavy load to carry, and I feel for him in that regard. But what do you got for his strengths and weaknesses?
I mean, I basically have the same weakness. I think last couple of years in the TCC, he was providing a lot of commentary around, he's working through some swing changes, um, and that makes me ask the question: is what swing is he going to show up with? And the mental load of so many swing feels, it's got to be a heavy burden. Um, I have to say this, is he does have the lowest individual winning percentage. However, this leads into the strength is lately the guy knows how to win. He's won cups 3 of the last 4 years, which I think has to indicate a good locker room guy, a good camaraderie guy. He can elevate a team, and it may not be showing on the stat sheet for him, but he knows how to win. Um, and we'll just go to the last one. I'll say a newcomer. He's participated moderately in TCC, 1.5 seasons. Uh, is Tony Karlovich, the second of the second of the brother pairs, um, and the strength has to be he's great at using a handicap. Uh, you know, torched his brother at Crystal Lake a few years ago. His brother shot like a 74, and Tony Vich had him closed out at like 14 in match play. So
2018,
like
the
the
asterisk year.
the guy knows how to use a handicap. And very similar to Evans, I'm gonna say the TCC experience has to be
Mm.
a significant weakness on him as well. Um, I don't know much about Tonovich as a golfer, but just kind of drawing some conclusions based on what I've seen, that's what I got for him.
Fun fact about Tony Karlovich is he has the highest win percentage of anybody who's ever participated in the TCC. At
That's
going 3-1 throughout his life, he went 1-0 in 2018, the asterisk year, and went 2-1 in 2019.
got to count for
I
something.
It's got to count for something. I think also his biggest weakness is just going to be inconsistency. He doesn't have a handicap right now. Does that mean he's not playing golf? How's he going to get one lined up in place? I'm sure he'll figure it all out. But I think his biggest strength is the most important ability, and that's availability, right? He was willing to jump in when we needed a 12th. He was like, "Yeah, I'm in. Sounds good. I'll drive 8 hours from Chicago to get up there. Sounds like that'll be a blast." So I'm excited to see Tonovich. Excited to hear what's been going on with him. But I think his biggest strength is his availability.
Yeah, that's definitely a strength, and I would say big props to Tony Vich for I don't want to say filling in, because at this point in our lives, getting we'll say the go ahead to do a golf trip with not a lot of lead time, that's a strength. There's got to be something. There's got to be a solid foundation somewhere that's gonna hold him up. So good point on that.
I'll tell you this:
Um,
people may leave the TCC, but more often than not, they come back.
yeah, yeah.
Tonovich hasn't
Yeah.
played since 2019. He's had a solid 5-year gap, but he's back, baby.
Hey, all you got to do is come back. Um, so that is the draft class of 2025. We're not going to give the big board ranks. I don't want to impact
No.
the draft status. I don't want to put any asterisks around that. But um, like we said, draft is this time next week. For you listeners, we will be broadcasting it live,
Of
so
course.
tune in. Um, draft format, I think, is going to be your traditional snake draft, and we'll decide on who's going first, and who throws out first. Game formats, do we have those set in stone? I know there's been talk of introducing some kind of Stableford game, but what the Stableford taste in our mouths after a couple of overly complex attempts might preclude that. Uh,
We'll
Mondo, do
figure
you
it
have
out.
anything new with the game formats?
No, I think that's one of the things I'm excited about getting the draft going is starting to engaging in those types of conversations to bring all of that out because I know obviously we're going to play match play. Obviously we're going to have one best ball round. And then really kind of we have the other three rounds up that we can identify because like I don't know if people want to spend $205 to play a course twice and not get to play their ball both
At
times.
least once. At least
Right,
once.
or at least
Yeah.
once, right? So we'll figure it all out. I don't know if we want to play like a warm up round, not a warm up round, but like a team game in the morning, like all shot in the morning, so people can see the course, learn it, and play their own ball in the afternoon. A lot of different kind of angles and details to kind of tease out, but I think that those are all going to kind of fall into place after the draft kind of precludes.
And I think we also need to call out and solidify those who don't have handicaps. Are we drew a line in the sand, and I want to know, are we gonna uphold that line with the Karlovich brothers,
Yeah,
and
we've
how are we
reached
gonna handle
out.
that?
We've reached out. They've assured us, especially with the new handicapping system, I think you only have to get 3 rounds to get a provisional index. So I think Carlo went out the other day, but I think it's something to just be mindful of. I think it's an interesting variable in the draft strategy, right? Is like who's going to come across and play higher at their handicap right now versus all that they both will. But also if they're playing if they have one good round of the three, that could also drastically impact their expectations of themselves as well. So I think we'll just continue to remind, continue to ask questions, and kind of make it up as we go. But we did run into a participant issue this year with both Haynes and Hutton taking a year off. But Haynes still might join us. I'm hoping that he has the opportunity to join us, but he doesn't want to golf. And I respect that. I respect him identifying what he wants to do and what he doesn't want to do. But I would like him to come up and cook food for us so that we don't have to
Yeah,
worry about that.
I mean, he could bring a book,
Yeah,
get some time to himself in the condo while we're out playing.
I think he'd have a blast jumping on a cart, run around, and just heckling us.
Well, you couldn't have picked a worse heckler. Are they going to allow that? That's my big question.
Yeah, we'll figure all
You
that
know,
out.
yeah, yeah. But yeah, tune in next week for the TCC 25 draft. Mondo, any closing thoughts?
No, I'm looking forward to official TCC preseason starting next week. We are kind of like the NFL. We like to drag these things out, but understanding that the next 60 days, 53 days after the draft are going to be all inclusive. Communication
Rookie
overload.
camp, mini camp,
Yeah, OTAs.
OTAs, all that stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, we're going to be a heavy TCC schedule, so I'm really looking forward to it. But I'm also spending this last week relaxing and recuperating and getting ready for it.
Hey, we got to get our bodies ready. We're not young anymore. But
Exactly.
with that, this year's TCC sponsored by the Schneiderman family, or the Schneiderman-in-law family, uh,
Jurgensen.
the Jurgensens,
Yeah,
for putting this up in the condo, and big props there, and we'll make sure they don't regret it.
yeah. We'll try to make sure that they don't regret it. But we got the condo next door. I got that all set up.
Oh, fantastic! Adjoining rooms. I hope there's a door in between.
Oh yeah. All right. We'll see you next week.
Bye.